Welcome everyone. My name is Mak Grgic. I'm the artistic director of Zagreb Guitar Festival. We're here with Jack Hancher, this year's winner of the Zagreb Guitar Festival's virtual guitar competition. Jack, welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Where are you at right now?
I'm in my flat in London at the moment.
London, okay.
Yeah.
And I'm saying hello from Los Angeles, as you can see. This is representative. Not really.
Yeah, it looks a bit better weather than we've got here at the moment.
Looks
Surprise,
great
surprise.
to me. Good thing the little bit of the sky that you can see is quite clear. About a week or so ago, it was not clear. There was a lot of fires going on. So we're happy that we can breathe again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a downside and there's an upside to virtuality, of course. The upside certainly is that we can, sort of check in from whenever and wherever around the globe. And so was the case with the competition. We had, people from truly all over. And that's great, keep the glass half full, I suppose.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so Zagreb Guitar Festival is in its 6th edition this year. It's virtual, obviously. And you won our competition. Congratulations. I guess my first question is, do you know anything about the festival, or have you known anything about the festival prior to actually enrolling into this virtual competition?
Actually, I knew of it, and I was out in Vienna about a month ago, and I was speaking to a guy from Croatia, Luca, and he was telling me, "Oh, you've got to come out, you've got to do it." And so I think because it was the deadline was put back, I was able then to enter the competition. And obviously, I saw it was online, but obviously, I've never actually been to the festival. But Luca was sort of telling me all about it and telling me, "Oh, you've got to do it, you've got to go." So I was planning to come next year, but then it was sort of brought forward because it had been moved online with the extended deadline. So I thought, well, I might as well go in for it this year. So ended up doing it a year early, basically.
Well, if we're all lucky and it's possible, of course, we'll be looking forward to having you there. And then sort of another question tying into this one is, have you ever heard of Eurostrings? And did you know that our festival is the founding partner, the leading partner for the network?
Yes, I was aware of that. And Eurostrings is something that I've been very keen to try and sort of get onto if I can. So I was planning this year to do a few more of the competitions that would allow me to have potentially the chance to get onto the Eurostrings. But obviously, the pandemic happened and I had to sort of shelve those plans. This also coincided for me with an injury. I actually broke my arm at the end of last year. So I had about 4.5 months out of playing entirely. So I didn't play a note. So in some ways, the pandemic actually, from a selfish point of view, sort of came at a good time because I could sort of, get back on top of my playing and really work at it solidly without any distractions. But yeah, back to the Eurostrings thing. I mean, as I say, my plan was this year to try and, enter competitions that were on the Eurostrings. So yeah, I mean, I'm very fortunate now to have the opportunity next year. So, yeah,
So this was not, by the way, an earthquake that you just saw, the sort of the picture shatter. It was my knee kicking the table a little bit. Although we've had our fair share of earthquakes here in Los Angeles these past few weeks. So going a little bit back in time, I'm curious to hear the story of Jack. But before we go there, I just want to share a little bit of your performance. Good. All right. So here we have Jack gearing up to play his first note of which piece? This was for the.
This would be John Dowland, Fantasia in G major.
Okay.
I think, if I remember correctly.
All righty. Let's have a look. Beautiful. Jack, makes me want to play Downland all over again.
Well, I picked one of his slightly less depressing pieces.
Yeah, beautiful sustain. I love the way you're holding voices by sort of like cross connecting fingers. Very very clear line. Showcasing the lines coming in and out. Beautiful phrasing, color. Which guitar is it?
It's Christopher Dean, English
Okay.
maker. Yeah.
Okay, so we should be on the lookout for that maker. That's
Oh,
fantastic.
they're beautiful. I mean, I still, because I prefer the traditional guitars personally, and the great thing about Chris's guitar, especially the one I've got, I think I've got really lucky with the one I've got. There's just so much color on it, and I try and play with as much color as I can. So it like sort of really suits what I want to try and get out of the instrument. So I mean, yeah, I'm just very lucky with that guitar. They're great. If you love traditional guitars, they're great.
So let's backtrack. Let's 10 or so years backwards in time. How did you start the guitar, or better yet, why?
Well, it's actually longer than that for me. Why is quite hard to answer because I don't remember. I was so young when I started. I was 4 when I first picked up a guitar. The story, basically, because I don't really remember it, obviously, was that basically my granddad was a musician. He played the trumpet, but he had a guitar in his house. So after school, if I was going back to my grandparents' house, basically there was a time where I picked up the guitar when I was about 4, and I think the story goes that I managed to figure a little bit of a tune out on my own, and my granddad wandered in and heard that I was playing a little bit, and he actually then taught me a little bit of Spanish Romance, classic. But he sort of taught me the bit where you got the melody on the first string and just the first 8 bars or so, and I could sort of fret the notes and hold it correctly, and I guess I was sort of making a vaguely coherent sound with the right hand. So yeah, I mean, it sort of went from there. And then when I started reading music when I was about 7. So I guess from about there is when I started taking it a bit more seriously, because I sort of started to learn chords and figure out just like little tunes here and there.
Sure.
Yeah, from about 7 onwards when I started reading music, and then sort of doing the usual like grades.
That's a nice intuitive start to learning.
Yeah, it was, because I mean, it wasn't sort of a case of my parents didn't say, right, do you want to learn an instrument? What do you want to play? It was pretty much that I just sort of naturally was interested in and picked it up. So yeah, it's quite nice that it wasn't sort of in no way forced, or it wasn't like a school thing where you had to do an instrument and all that kind of thing. So yeah, it was nice.
Where are you in your studies right now?
I finished now. I finished my master's, was it 2 years ago in London? Okay. Well, so yeah, I'm out of education now.
Okay. All right. Are you planning on becoming a doctor of music? These days, it's.
I think I'm done with education now.
All right. Fair enough.
I've got no plans at the moment, certainly, to go back in.
So you've been sort of doing a few competitions these days, as I understand. How do you find this scene? There's more competitions out there than ever. Do you find it inspiring, or do you look at it as a sort of a must-to-do, or what's your perspective?
I don't really treat them as competitions as such. So that sounds a really silly thing to say, but in some ways I sort of just go out there with the attitude of that I'm performing hopefully to new people and new audiences and in different places and things like that. And then I don't really like to think of music as a competition, so I don't try and get into that mindset. So it's more for me about just performing to new audiences and new people, basically, which is an interesting way of thinking about it, I guess. But yeah, I mean, it sort of works for me because I don't put too much pressure on myself that, I'm thinking, I need to win this or I need to win that. I don't really go in with that mindset. So yeah, I just try and treat it as I would any other performance, really.
Well, that's beautiful. So much was talked about having a perspective of, you know, treating competitions like a business, you know, really sort of devoting time and going to as many as possible, and looking at them as a sports event, you know. And this was the mindset for the longest time. And I forget now whom with, but I did have this conversation with someone about how the perspective is changing these days, and it's changing for the better. It's like treating competitions, as you said, as a performance opportunity gives much more flexibility to each performer to just bring out the artistry to the best ability. It's not just about muscle. It's really, it becomes about expression and personal sort of approach to music, and, you know, what each artist represents. And that's a great way of going about it, and probably a healthier way for the nerves too, right?
I agree. As I say, in terms of the nerves, certainly I think I would struggle a bit more if I was putting pressure on myself, going in with the mindset of thinking, oh, I need to win this, or at least place, or something like that. So I do play sports, so I sort of know and understand that mindset a bit, but I don't really want to apply that to music. I try and keep the two separate.
Since you mentioned it, which sport?
Football is my main one. That's
you mean
big
soccer
passion.
or football?
Soccer. Sorry, I should say soccer. Football, really, but
sure. I heard an explanation as to why the American football is called football. Do you know why?
No, not the official reason.
Let's wait for this pretty loud car to move past. Supposedly because the actual football is a foot long.
Oh, right. Oh, okay.
Supposedly. I'm not sure if it's true.
As in, right, okay, that's interesting. That makes more sense.
I still, as an avid, European, I still think it should not be called football. But that's a whole other topic.
Yeah. That makes more sense, though. That does make more sense.
Yeah, we can leave that aside for like a sports interview, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how many you've done in this pandemic. Seems like you used the time to recoup from the injury, but you know, there's been a sudden surge naturally of virtual guitar competitions. How do you look at this phenomena? Do you think it's good?
I think it's got some benefits, as you say. I think in terms of people entering, I suppose people who couldn't actually come over to Zagreb, for example, it gives them a chance to have a crack at the competition. You know, if they can't physically get there, or whatever it is that might stop them. I suppose that's a benefit. I suppose more people can enter and perform and show they're playing. I suppose that in itself as well. I suppose the fact that they can enter and people will watch their performances, it's another good way of people or for the artist to actually be heard by other people that they couldn't normally reach. So that's definitely a positive. From my point of view, the negatives are, I would say that recording is probably my least favorite thing to do. I just find it a lot more stressful than actually being on stage. I prefer being on stage, and I suppose the thing I dislike about recording is I sort of think backwards a bit more. So I'm always sort of thinking, oh, that could have gone a little bit better, or that wasn't my best playing. And it's strange because I never really think like that in performance. Even if I do make mistakes, I never really think backwards too much. I'm sort of a bit more in the moment. But yeah, I find myself recording that. Yeah, I'm sort of criticizing as I go along. And then I've had a couple of the disaster moments where I've recorded, for example, a half an hour video. And I did this once. I was doing something over here. It's about half an hour of playing, and I went out of my flat. I went to record it somewhere else. Got it done. Was happy with the playing, and got back and checked it, and the camera was just completely out of focus. And just So I had to go back the next day and do it all again. So like things like that are like, you know, you have to deal with a few technical glitches here and there. But yeah, I mean, I think it's got some positives and negatives. As I say, I think the main positive is that you can certainly reach new audiences, if you know. So
Recording has a certain kind of mentality, mindset that it asks for, and I agree with you. It's very hard to assume a performing artist aspect while in front of a mic, especially if there's no one there to listen to you, you know. And that could be a good pointer for anyone, you know, looking to record for any other virtual competition coming up, is perhaps having maybe a person or two sitting there, you know, just
yeah,
pretending to be an audience. Maybe
just
it's not a
just to
bad
give a bit
idea.
more of a live feel. Yeah.
Yeah, but I do agree. I found myself many times just saying, I'm just going to do one take, and then 4 hours later, I'm still obsessing over
Still going. Yeah.
that one phrase, right? So perhaps not the healthiest way of going about this. Yeah. So you've now become a Eurostring artist. How does that make you feel? Is it, and I guess what do you know about the program in general, and what are your expectations?
Well, first of all, excited would be the main word I would say. I mean, again, I just love performing, and it's going to be a great opportunity. You know, fingers crossed it can happen live. We just don't know with the current situation, but yeah, I mean, obviously the performance opportunities to play in new places, again, play to new audiences. You know, it's just going to be. I just know I will love it. Aside from that, you know, you've got the workshops, which I'm looking forward to. I mean, some of that stuff is really going to benefit me. It's all the marketing and self-promotion and all that side of it, and the workshops and lectures we get on that's going to really help me. And then just meeting other guitarists, you know, I mean, people I haven't met before, and hear them play and all that sort of thing. So it's going to be really inspirational. And I get to visit, you know, and hopefully have a look around some beautiful countries and cities and stuff. So, you know, it gives you everything you sort of want as a musician, I guess. So it's going to be great.
Our main goals when we were thinking about the Eurostring Artist program initially was the concept of friendship.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Not just having the opportunity to perform, you know, which of course everyone wants to do, is also to share all of these experiences with new friends, you know, because new friends become old friends, and then, you know, it's a meaningful experience, you know, looking backwards than 10 years after or 20 years after. It's something that creates a meaningful point in time. And
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it would be a bit of a shame to sort of just go out to wherever it is, play your gig and go home. You know, it's, you know, part of the experience is, as you say, meeting people and the socializing afterwards and all of that thing, and getting to meet new people and, you know, as you say, make friends basically. So
which is why virtuality is a little bit detrimental to this whole thing. Is it's hard to be equally as engaged in the social aspect of music making, right? So yes, we're all very hopeful that this will pass sooner than later. I'm curious. You know, you've played Britain, you played Downland. So what would be your favorite piece on the program these days? And is there a composer that you sort of always resort to? And also, do you, when you plan programs for the competitions, do you diversify? Meaning, is there a different approach to thinking about a program for the competition versus what you would just play in a live setting as in a concert?
Yeah. I mean, I think there are certain pieces I would play in a concert program which probably wouldn't get you too far in a competition, because, you know, technically they're not particularly tricky. There's a few sort of Celtic pieces I play at the moment which sort of fit in with the British music I'm doing, which, yeah, for a competition, you know, probably not quite going to be at a technically high enough level. So yeah, I wouldn't put those in. But what it does do, I suppose, I suppose what the competitions do is get you playing more with more variety in terms of the rep. So for example, my sort of concert program at the moment is mostly British music. But I think if I did that in a competition, I'd sort of be criticized for saying, oh, you need to do more, you need to show more,
Mm-hmm.
that you can play more rep than just British music. So hence why, in some of the other rep I've got is some Bach, or I'm just starting the Jose Sonata for Sample to do a bit of Spanish music. So something a bit different again. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily put them into my, concert program at the moment, but in terms of the competitions, yeah, it gives a bit more variety.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
In terms of my favorite piece, it would be the Britain Nocturnal,
Mm.
and because I would probably, whether just my opinion, but for me, it's probably the best piece actually written for guitar. I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just. I think it's got so much depth, I guess is the word. Musically, there's so much in it.
Mm-hmm.
More so for me at the moment. I mean, I might change my mind. Maybe in 5 years' time, I'll give a different answer. But at the moment, I just think, yeah, you can explore it in so many different ways and approach it in different ways. And I always feel when I revisit that piece, if I don't play it for a couple of months and I come back to it, I always feel like I want to do something slightly different with it, and there are new ways of, as I say, approaching it. And I think that's a sign of a great piece, because I don't think I'll ever be 100% satisfied with what
Mm.
I'm doing with it musically. I think I'll always want to, change little bits here and there, or my approach to, whether it's a variation or the whole thing. Maybe in 10 years, I'll have a completely different approach to playing it. I don't know. But yeah, there's just so much in that piece that I think, yeah, that would be order of playing it, put it that way.
And you pair it most likely with Dowland quite often, right?
Yeah, not necessarily after one another,
Mm-hmm.
because I quite like sort of setting it up
Mm-hmm.
and then coming back. I quite like having the symmetry of starting a half or a whole program with Dowland and then finishing with Dowland, so you get a bit of symmetry.
Mm-hmm.
I think pairing it together can work, but for me, I prefer. I don't know whether the Dowland song coming in at the end has quite the same impact
Mm-hmm.
if you've just been listening to a 15-minute set of Dowland immediately
Mm-hmm.
before.
Mm-hmm.
So I quite like having that as a bit more of
A little bit more
sort of
breath in between.
yeah. And I suppose I think it just gives a bit more impact to the moment where the song appears at the end. I think if you've not been listening to 15 minutes of Dowland directly before it.
Mm-hmm. Well, as you were
That's
describing
just my opinion.
no, of course. It's as you were describing this, it sort of reminded me of great movies of the past, new movies as well. Each time one rewatches a great movie, it's possible to find something new that you know
Yeah.
that sort of fell through the cracks before, and
Yeah.
one gets sort of excited about it. The sort of richness, and in a very succinct way of providing info. Nothing is too much, nothing is too little, but
Yeah.
it's so rich in the material that it's always interesting to rediscover. So I beautifully said, absolutely. So before we move on to the sort of the quick Q&A section, no thinking, just responding kind of thing.
Okay.
I want to go back to a little bit of your final performance. And you opened up with which piece?
This was Dowland again.
Oh,
So it's
okay.
the Preludium.
Okay, nice opener.
Yeah,
So to
absolutely.
speak. Yeah. All right, let's have a listen. So I suppose I have one additional question, and I just noticed this. Um, I don't see this quite often, but you play a lot using the middle and ring finger combination. Uh,
Yeah.
it seems like almost preferring the index middle combination. Is there a reason, or I mean, I'm just merely asking because it could be a good sort of like technique tip for anyone sort of
Uh,
suffering from these two being
yeah.
too.
Yeah. It's something that a few people have noticed. I mean, a lot of people don't actually. And when I say to people, I actually do a few scale runs with M&A,
Yeah.
they're always a bit like, "What? That's crazy." I mean, I think it's a couple of things. The reason it started actually was because I was learning a piece where I needed to do some quick scale runs. They weren't like top speed, but they were fairly quick. But for about 2 months solid, I kept losing my index fingernail, so I just couldn't really play with it. So I ended up practicing with just M&A for a while, just so I could actually practice the scale, and it just sort of stuck, I guess. It just became something I could do. Also, I think I get a slightly better tone with those two fingers than my index. I think my index is probably my weakest tone. So when I'm playing, when I'm trying to create like the nicest, warmest sound I can get, I normally prefer to use those two fingers, especially on the top two strings. I don't know why. It's just.
Is there a technique exercise, an exercise that you could recommend to someone wanting to?
I'll be honest. I didn't really do one. It was literally just the scales that I was doing in the piece. I think I'm trying to remember which one it was now. It could have been Berkshire Con, I think, but I genuinely can't remember because it must have been about 6 or 7 years ago now.
Okay.
But it just gradually became more comfortable, and then I suppose I just sort of added it in.
Okay. Well, that's very interesting.
Not a great answer, but
it's a nice. It seems like it's kind of a no biggie in terms of having the control to be flexible.
Yeah, I mean, I use I&M a lot, obviously, but yeah, just for when it's not too quick and I'm going for like the warm sounds, then yeah, I generally tend to switch to M&A. But yeah, it's not something I would teach. When I'm teaching kids, I teach, and I'm trying to get them to play, with speed. I generally get them doing I&M, not M&A, but each to their own.
Creating the finger balance and the hand balance is very important. So this is something for us all to consider, just keeping our chops up. Very cool. All right. So I was not planning on this question, but I kind of noticed as we were listening. Yeah. So here we go. Okay, ready. Did you ever want to play another instrument?
I wouldn't say want to play. I mean, I sometimes get a little bit envious of orchestral players, just purely because some of the repertoire and what they get to do, I think, is just incredible. That I'd love to be able to have that experience of playing, some like Mahler's symphony or something like that. But in terms of a specific instrument, not really. And I sort of dabbled. I tried to do piano when I was a bit younger, but I was just hopeless. It was just so unnatural, and it just felt all upside down to me because I'm used to having my hands this way and then the piano's that way, and it just didn't work for me.
Well, you found the calling. That's
parents' annoyance.
Cool. Here's another one. Which music besides classical, what do you enjoy dabbling with or playing or listening to?
I mean, there's not much I don't listen to really. I mean, I suppose the only music I can't really listen to is metal.
Too loud?
It's just a bit too extreme for me. I mean, some of the riffs are good, but then the screaming vocals, I can't deal with that. It's a bit too much. But I mean, I suppose my favourites. I mean, I'm sort of into quite a wide range, I guess. Rock's probably I mean, if I had to nail it down, rock's probably my favourite. I mean, I like bands like probably still a Muse poster up here. They're definitely my favourite band. English band Arctic Monkeys. So that sort of thing in terms of modern bands.
Mm-hmm.
But going back, I love things like the Beatles, Dylan,
Mm-hmm.
Elvis, that sort of thing as well. So I sort of brought up with that music because my dad loved that music a lot. So I sort of brought up with that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know jazz music particularly well, but I love listening to it. And, we've obviously got Ronnie Scott's here, and I've had a few nights there, and it's just great. I mean, I don't know the tracks or the songs so well, but yeah, I mean, I try and keep it varied.
Well, that's beautiful. Get a good perspective on it, on everything. I think I know the answer to this question, but have you ever been to Zagreb before?
I've not been to Croatia, unfortunately. So I'm hoping.
So
fingers
hopefully
crossed,
next year then.
Yeah, fingers crossed it'll be a new place for me to visit.
And here's my last question: is which is your favorite soccer team or football? Sorry, I should say football.
I'm a massive Wolverhampton Wanderers fan. Wolves.
Okay.
I've been going. Well, my first game was when I was 4, and I've been going. I had my season ticket, my first season ticket, when I was about 7 or 8. I've still got one now, and I go every week to the home. Obviously not at the moment because of the pandemic, but in normal circumstances, I go to every home game, and I do probably 80% of the away games. So I'm pretty big. It's something I do. Again, it's in the family. So my dad and my brother, we travel all over to watch them up and down the country. In fact, last season we managed to get to a couple of games abroad because we were in the Europa League. So we went out to Barcelona to watch us against Espanyol, and then Braga in Portugal.
Wow.
So we take it. Yeah, it's quite a big part of our lives. Again, that's sort of my passion alongside music. Growing up, it was football and music, pretty much.
You take
intertwined.
Your guitar with you?
Well, not for those trips because we only went for a couple of nights. We literally just went for the game and then came back. And it was nice because Mum came out as well, as we treated as a mini family holiday because we're all spread out now. Like my brother, pre-pandemic, he was living away from home and I'm in London, so we treated it as a chance to have a mini family holiday. So it's football is definitely quite a big family thing, which is nice.
That's beautiful. Well, good. So here we are at the end of the interview. Thanks for joining us. Thanks again for your beautiful playing, and congratulations on the first prize.
Thank you very much.
Look forward to seeing you in person, the following season. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, absolutely. Fingers crossed it can happen.
And just a quick message, if you have an inspirational little quote or two that you want to, all the guitarists to hear. So go for it.
Ooh, inspirational quote. I've never been asked for one of those.
Message from Jack.
Ooh, I suppose, the main thing I say to most musicians really is always make sure, try your best to enjoy everything you're doing music related. Try not to take it too seriously. Always enjoy what you're doing musically, because I think if you get to the point where it feels like it's just routine and it's repetitive, then that's not really healthy and what music's about. So I always just try and remind myself. I'm lucky, I never really get to a point where I'm not enjoying it, but if I ever do feel under a bit of stress or pressure, I always remind myself that you're doing what you love. Just enjoy it. Don't beat yourself up too much about it. So especially in the current situation, I think it's good. I think music's a good escape.
Absolutely.
You go into your own world. So yeah, just enjoy it. Always enjoy it. Don't lose your love for it.
It's I believe Tilman Hopstock said a very similar thing along with Anna Vidovic as well. Just enjoy your music. It's why we started it and why we do it. So very well said. Well, thank you so much for being here with us. Again, great playing. Congratulations, and we'll see you out there somewhere.
Yeah, fingers crossed it can happen live. So.
Cool. And to
I hope
all
the situation in LA gets better as well.
Yeah, I'm sure it will eventually. Otherwise, I'll just go escape back to Slovenia, run into some mountain and just wait it out over there. Yeah,
that's a good plan B.
Well, to all your listeners out there, thanks for tuning in. As Jack and I said, hope to see you out there somewhere in person. And until then, stay safe.